Okay, welcome to Whitebeard Adventures. I'm your host Dan, and today I got a little quick hit video on some do-it-yourself parts I had to make for a project I'm working on. I got an Ultra Classic that I'm going to be adding heated seats to and import auxiliary power port in the tour pack. To do so, I need to hook up to the auxiliary power connector that's underneath the seat of my bike. So, starting in on the project, I'm the kind of guy I don't like to hook up any wires unless I know exactly what it is I'm doing. I got a plan and so forth and so on. So I started reviewing the wiring diagrams, and the connector that is under my seat is a Dutch type connector. It's a connector made by a company called Dutch. This is not a factory connector. This is an aftermarket connector. But just a little rundown on what the connector is. They make them in 2-way, 3-way, 4-way, all the way up to like 10 or 12-way. This is a 4-way, holds 4 wires. And as you can see, when you assemble it, you got a seal here that puts it together, makes it watertight. You got a seal here for the wires and a seal here for the wires. On the bike, there's just this connector hanging there waiting to be used. And it's got pins sticking out. So I went over to try and figure out whether the wiring matched the wiring diagram. And on the connector, the factory states that this is pin 1, pin 2, pin 3, and pin 4. On my wiring diagram, when I looked at it, this would be 1, this would be 2, this would be 3, this would be 4. So that's exactly why I wanted to check it out first before I go hooking up any wires. And so to do that, I was using this tool here. So for those of you who don't know what this tool is, it's called a power probe. On one end you got this probe. On the other end you got these battery hookups. And it has a 20-foot cord. As you can see, it's got a pretty long cord. And it comes with a 20-foot extension, so 40-foot long. This was originally made for working on tractor trailers, but it got adopted by the automotive industry over the years, and it's pretty much an everyday staple in the automotive industry. How this works, I got a battery sitting here. So hook this up, and you'll see it power up. And how this works is you got, I'm going to touch the ground terminal here. And you get a low tone. And I'll touch the positive terminal here. And you get a high tone. You can see it's red. I'll get the ground on camera here. It's green. So I went over there to probe this connector, because this connector is supposed to have 1 ground, 3 power wires. And 1 power wire is full-time power. 1 power wire is accessory power activated by the switch on the dashboard. And the other power wire is brake power. Not exactly sure what that one's for unless you wanted to add additional brake lights. I'm going to be hooking up, like I said, the heated seats. And I'm going to be hooking up an auxiliary power connector. The auxiliary power connector I will probably wire full-time power. The most I will ever plug into that thing is probably just a cell phone charger. And there's going to be times I'm going to want to charge my cell phone in the tour pack while I'm out walking around or something. And the cell phone charger is not going to drain enough juice to kill my battery. The heated seats, though, on the other hand, those things draw, I think I've metered them out at like 7.5 amps. Now, if I left those on while the bike was off, it's going to drain the battery. So I only want those on when the bike's running. So I go over, and sure enough, I got the connector sticking out from underneath the seat, and I'm metering it, and I'm having problems metering it because I can't get to the battery very easily like what I have here. So I'm trying to use my battery tender port, which is a connector that looks like this. It's just a standard automotive 2-way flat. Most motorcycles that have a battery tender have one of these hooked up. You hook the battery tender into here, and it keeps your battery maintained over the course of the winter time or whenever you're not riding it. And so I'm kind of hooking this thing up like this. Kind of hooking my alligator clip here, and then kind of hooking my positive here to get power, like so. And this is kind of dangerous, but at the same time I'm trying to meter, probe the connections. This keeps falling out, and I'm contending with this thing falling out like crazy. And then not only that, I'm trying to meter 4 little pins that are down inside of one of these connectors like so. It just wasn't working out. I spent 20 minutes and I'm like, okay, I got to do something different. So with my automotive background, it told me I got to come up with something that is going to work better for me. And sometimes, in the automotive industry, you've got to make your own tools. So what I came up with was 2 things. I took my own, this is an aftermarket connector again. I made it up with just these 4 butt connectors on the end. So that way I could plug it in there. And instead of trying to probe the pins, I can now probe these butt connectors. So I made that. I already had the connector, I already had the wire, I already had the butt connectors, I already had the tape. I think these connectors cost $2 or $3 a piece for a pair. So I already had them. This really didn't cost me anything because I've already had the connectors for some other projects. So now I can plug this into the bike and probe those power wires. Now, it's a good thing I did because, like I said before, the factory pin out is 1, 2, 3, 4, but the way the bike is actually wired is 1, 2, 3, 4. Had I hooked them up per the diagram, and I've learned over the years of working on cars and motorcycles, you do not trust the diagrams. They're only a guide. They're a tool. They're not gospel. So, didn't give any faith that it was 100%, and I metered it out. Sure enough, it wasn't. And had I wired it up the way the wiring diagrams said to hook it up, I'd have probably had some serious problems. So, that was one half of the equation. I got that problem resolved. A little easier to probe these connectors than the pins down in the connector. But I had this other problem of trying to keep my power probe plugged into something like this on the bike. This kept falling out, this kept falling off, so I'm like, okay, I got to do something different. So I made this little doodad here, and all this is a piece of plastic. As a matter of fact, it was cut off of this. This is a plastic placard that came with a coupler lock for my trailer. I whacked a piece off, and as you can see, it's pretty thick plastic. Whacked a piece off, and I put a ring terminal on the end of each one of these wires. Went to Advanced Auto Parts, got this connector for $4, and there's another half. So this is only half of this. Is basically $1.99. Plastic I already had, the bolts I already had, the nuts I already had, the zip ties I already had. I think I bought a couple ring connectors. And what you see here is a bunch of layers of liquid tape layered on. Main reason why is I didn't want those to have any connectivity. That way if it touched one of my chrome bars or touch frame, it wouldn't arc, burn the paint or burn the chrome. So I just layered it on a bunch of liquid tape to insulate it. So the only thing that isn't insulated are these terminals and this connector here, but when it's plugged in, it is insulated. So that leaves just this. So now I can hook this into my battery tender port on my bike, which is directly hooked to the battery. And now I can do this number. They're not falling off, falling out, so forth and so on. And now I can power up my power probe with this little adapter here. So that solved my problems. I went over there, I hooked this into the power battery tender, powered up my probe, plugged this into my auxiliary port, boom, 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 probe. Within literally 1 minute, I had all the answers I needed. So, just to give you an idea of what I'm looking at doing here, I'm planning on coming off my auxiliary power connector to 2 more outlets. One for the heated seats, one for the power outlet, and a tour pack. So I've got these made up, and I'll do this in another video finishing this up, but I got these made up. These are wires that were soldered, and then I laid on liquid electrical tape. While it was still wet, I slid on the heat shrink and I shrunk it so it squeezed all the electrical tape out and only leave what was necessary to create a watertight connection. So basically this is going to go into the 1 power connector on the bike, and on the other end I'm going to have two more connectors, one for the torque pack, power outlet, and one for the heated seats. So I'm going to make this harness. Harley actually makes this harness. It's $29.95 or something like that. I'll make this harness another video, but these are just pins and sockets. Pins and sockets like so. One end plugs into the other end, and they're connected via a crimp tool. I've got a crimp tool here. I got two of these. They're different sizes. This one here is specifically 14, 16, and 18 gauge. You can adjust them here on the side for crimping more or crimping less. And I'll try and get a good shot of this. You can probably see some little jaws in there. These are four-way crimps. So it crimps the wire on all four sides. But I'll go over that in the next video. But point is, I had a problem. I came up with these two items as a solution to my problem. So these are now tools. These will go in my motorcycle toolbox for future use. Any bike I use, I need to plug into the power port for testing, I can. The colors are going to be different, and the pinout's going to probably be different from 2009 and on. My bike's a 2008. But what I did determine, and what I suspected, you know, I got my black wire here, which is my ground. My red wire is my full-time power. Yellow is the brake power, and orange is the accessory wire. That's what I needed to know. And like I said, both of these will end up in my toolbox. These are now tools. Sometimes in the automotive and motorcycle repair business, you got to overcome and adapt, and you got to make your own stuff. Like I said, I've got probably, I think, $2 in this. With all the existing stuff I had here, I got like $2 in that. So for $4, I got exactly what I needed to get the answers I needed. So that's all for now. If you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. And I will have another video coming here soon where I will be finishing this harness to make the Y-splitter that Harley charges $29.99 for. Actually, I think it might be up more now. It might be $34.99. But anyhow, like I said, if you like this material and you want to, or this content, you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. As new videos come out, you will be notified. Until later, thanks.